Apparently, there was a big fire at Company X. At that moment, I felt as if I had been hit on the head with a hammer, because that was the company where my husband worked. I hope he's okay. I called my husband, praying that he escaped from the fire. The call rang. As if my prayers had been answered, I heard my husband's voice say, "Hello? Max, where are you? Are you safe?" I was so happy to get through to him that my voice got louder. My husband seemed to be annoyed and said, "What's the matter with you? You're talking so loud." "I'm at work. Don't call me while I'm working." And the call was immediately hung up. At any rate, my husband didn't seem to be involved in the fire. But his answer was strange. "My name is Mona. I'm 32 years old. I'm a nurse, and work has been the main part of my life. So I got married 3 years ago when I was 29 years old. I was lucky to get married in my 20s, just barely. I met my husband, Max, through an acquaintance. We hit it off right away and are enjoying our married life at his company housing. We have been married for 3 years but still have no children together. But I believe that I can build a happy family with my husband. My husband is sometimes self-centered, but in general, he's a kind and good person. He expresses his love to me, and I feel safe with him. But recently, he seems to be very busy with his work and working more and more on his days off. I guess he's tired because of this, and he doesn't pay much attention to me at home. After dinner, he sits on the sofa in front of the TV, which he doesn't even watch. He looks at his phone all the time with the TV as a background music. When I talk to him, he only says, "Yeah," or "Oh," or something like that. At first, I thought I might have said something to put him in a bad mood. But I decided to think that he was simply tired from his busy work schedule. If he was that tired, I would make sure that I pack him lunch and prepare dinner every day. I try to make the daily lunch and dinner nutritious and well-balanced. Then one day, something strange happened. The day before, I received a call from a coworker asking me to switch between the day and night shifts. So I suddenly had to change to the day shift. I had originally told my husband that I would be working the night shift, so I thought I would tell him about the shift change. But I was busy and ended up emailing him on the same day. I emailed him and told him that I had changed to the day shift and that I would make dinner and wait for him. But I didn't get a reply back. I thought he was busy at work, so I also concentrated on my own work. But when I finished work, he still hadn't responded. He used to reply early even when I was at work, and sometimes he used emojis in his text. But this time, he only read my message and never replied. Is he working so hard, or is this what happens after 3 years of marriage? Feeling a little sad, I went to the supermarket on my way home from work and bought some ingredients because I decided to cook nutritious dinner for my husband again today at any rate. It was very cold today, so I decided to make a one-pot dish. I cut up the ingredients and waited for my husband to come home so that I could start cooking right away. But no matter how long I waited, he never came home. He usually arrives home at 7 p.m. And when he finally came home, it was already 9 p.m. Welcome back. You're home late. Did you do some overtime work? Oh yeah. But did you have to work the day shift suddenly? Yeah. A coworker had an emergency. I was a little late to tell that to you. I see. Well, I guess you couldn't help it, but it's a little annoying that you have to tell me on the same day. I might have had plans for a drink or something. Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. I said that and turned on the stove for the pot. Oh, you haven't eaten yet? No, I thought I'd wait for you. Well, thanks. But next time you don't have to wait for me. I felt a little sad to hear my husband say this. I waited for the hot pot to boil. It started to simmer, so I served my husband's portion. Then I served mine. I was starving after waiting for him all this time. I was enjoying the hot pot, thinking it was delicious. Then I noticed that my husband was not eating so much. What's wrong? You don't seem to be eating so much. When I said that, he said, "Oh yes," and became somewhat confused. And then he said, "No, actually, I was working late, so a junior colleague at work bought me a rice bowl. So I'm not really hungry." Okay. Then you should have responded to me and told me that in advance. I mean, you should have said so before I started making the hot pot. I think he noticed that I was in a bit of a bad mood. Okay, then put all my portions aside in the fridge. I'll eat it tomorrow morning. He tried to put me in a better mood. Then my husband lay down on the couch. A few minutes later, he got up and suddenly said, "I'm going for a walk." That's unusual. When I said that, he answered, "I haven't been getting enough exercise lately, and I've been working late, so I need a change of pace." He began to get ready to go out. I felt a little empty sitting alone at the table eating the hot pot, so I also put my portion in the fridge. I feel like I've eaten a little too much, and my husband and I haven't been able to spend a lot of time together lately, so I decided to accompany him for a walk. But my husband refused to go for a walk with me. He said it's not good for me to move just after eating. He also said that he would go for a long walk and he wanted to be left alone. He ended up going out for a walk by himself. I thought his behavior was suspicious, so I secretly followed him. And my fear turned out to be true as soon as I started following him. Despite my worries, my husband was walking with great enthusiasm. He stopped in front of a park, which is a bit far away from the house. He looked around, and he seemed to be communicating with someone on his phone. I wondered who in the world he was talking to. A few minutes later, a car pulled in. My husband approached the car and started talking lightly with the person in the driver's seat. It was dark and hard to see, so I got closer to the car. Then my eyes caught sight of a person sitting in the driver's seat. She had long curly hair and glossy lipstick on her lips. It was a woman. A woman laughing happily as my husband got into the passenger seat. He is totally having an affair, right? By the time I thought that, the car with the two of them had already driven away. I stood there for a while, stunned. And then my husband sent me a text message saying that he happened to meet someone he knew and that he would be home a little late. Someone he knew? Just out of nowhere? I didn't believe him at all. He had said that he had already eaten and didn't have an appetite, but it was past 2 a.m. when my husband came home. He didn't even notice that I was awake. He seemed tipsy and went to the kitchen to drink a glass of water. After that, He often worked overtime only when I was on the day shift. We always had a hard time to match our off days, but now it's even harder. Yesterday he worked overtime, and today he has to work on his day off. But is it really work? I wonder if he's meeting the woman I saw that day. I can't help but wonder about that. I went online to look for information about detective agencies, and I found myself submitting an investigation request to the most reliable one. I felt guilty about investigating behind his back, but if nothing is going on, I could trust my husband again. So I decided to have them investigate. Waiting for the results of the investigation was really hard. My husband was as quiet as ever, and every time I saw his face, that woman was on my mind. I wanted to get a clear picture as soon as possible. Then something incredible happened. It was Saturday, and I was busy working as usual on the day shift. My husband was also at work on his day off. I was concentrating on my work, thinking that since we were both at work, I didn't have to think about anything else. Then I heard the sirens of the fire truck in the distance. The sound got closer and closer, and louder and louder. And just when I thought they were passing by, I heard another siren. It wasn't just one fire truck, but 2 or 3 more. This must mean that there was a big fire nearby. I felt a little uneasy and worried. Then 2 of my colleagues who had gone to the hospital room came back with serious looks on their faces. Apparently, they were talking about the fire. You mean the fire? Yes, that's right. Apparently, there was a big fire at Company X. At that moment, I felt as if I had been hit on the head with a hammer, because that was the company where my husband worked. I rushed to explain the situation to my colleagues, and I went to call my husband to make sure he was safe. Please be safe. With that in mind, I called his phone. Even though we had not been talking a lot, I always saw him off when he left for work in the morning. I prayed and hoped that he had escaped from the fire. The call rang. As if my prayers had been answered, I heard my husband's voice say, "Hello? Max, where are you? Are you safe?" I was so happy to get through to him that my voice got louder. My husband seemed annoyed and said, "What's the matter with you? You're talking so loud." "I'm at work. Don't call me while I'm working." And the phone was immediately disconnected. At least my husband wasn't involved in the fire. But his answer was strange. There was a fire and several fire trucks were on the scene. There was no way he could be working like that. Does that mean that he didn't go to work? And why should he be so cold to me when I'm worried about him? I was getting more and more angry with my husband. Maybe I'd been seeing him off just so that he could go to another woman since we got married. And then I made a decision. I would leave that house. As soon as I got home, I started packing my stuff. When I looked in the mailbox, I saw that the results from the detective agency had just arrived. I decided to leave the house with the results of the investigation. My parents helped me pack my things. The contractor would be here soon too. I had my things move out right away. My husband didn't seem to know that I knew the truth. I didn't hear from him at night. I guessed he was staying with his lover all the time. I packed a lot of my furniture and appliances which I used from my single days. The room was almost empty and looked deserted. Staring at the room, I realized that I had no lingering affection for the life in this house. For now, I moved my belongings to my parents' house and looked for a new place to live alone. My husband finally called me the next day. "Hey, what's going on? Most of your stuff is gone." "Of course, I moved out of that house." "What? What the hell were you thinking? When are you coming back? What about my food? What about the house chores?" I was in shock. After all, that's all you think about when it comes to me. While talking to him, it reminded me again of the fire at my husband's company. This guy was playing with his affair partner instead of going to work. When I remembered that, anger welled up in me. "Why don't you get another woman to do that?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" "You were with a woman named Linda today, weren't you?" "Huh? What are you talking about? I was working at the office." "Oh, at the office. How long did you work today?" "It was a busy day. Even though I was working on my day off, it took me until late in the evening." "I see. That's why I was so surprised that you moved out." "Why don't you stop lying already?" "Huh?" "You lied about going to work, right?" "I wasn't lying. I was working. What's going on?" "How can you work until the evening when there was a fire in the office during the day?" "Huh?" "When I called you during the day, several fire trucks were dispatched to your company. They were there to put out a fire that broke out at your office. That's why I called you. I wanted to know if you were okay. You told me not to call you when you're at work. You were talking like there was no fire." "Well..." "And I have evidence of the affair from a detective agency. There's no way for you to get away. You have to go through my lawyer for the rest of the correspondence. I'll make sure I'll get the alimony." "Oh, no!" My husband repeatedly begged for my forgiveness and apologized to me. But I no longer have any affection for him. "I'm sorry, but there's no way to fix it. I'm hanging up now." "Wait! Wait!" I went to my lawyer and demanded a divorce and alimony from him. The divorce was finalized, and he was not able to get away with it based on all the evidence. And my husband and the adulterer paid me a reasonable amount of alimony. It seems that my husband's partner was a junior colleague at the same workplace. The news of the affair spread through the company in no time. The fact that they were having an affair at a time when the company was in the middle of a fire seemed to have caused quite a lot of negativity among their colleagues. My husband and the affair partner are both getting cold stares from everyone around them, so they're feeling very ashamed of themselves. They really deserve it. Meanwhile, I moved to a new apartment and I'm living a comfortable single life. I'm hoping to meet a sincere man the next time. I'm a nurse, which is a stable job, so I'm taking my time and not rushing into a relationship. I'm also enjoying my own time. She found out her husband's affair unexpectedly because of the fire at his company. But he shouldn't have had an affair to begin with, and she would have found out sooner or later. I think he deserves all of it. Enjoy your single life as a nurse.